Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Your Friend David. I am your host, your friend, David Keskin. Every other Sunday, I like to sit down and talk about my own personal issues or maybe just open up about anything else on my mind in hopes that it will encourage you, the viewer, to feel more comfortable doing the same as well. And I hope you're all doing very well. I know the last episode that we put up was the history of DBW. That episode was supposed to be Mental Health Part 2, but by the time you see this, by the time this episode airs, that episode will already be out. So, sorry about that. I know in the DBW history episode, I kind of spoke about the previous episode being the mental health episode. So, episodes got mixed up. It's all okay. We're back on track now. It kind of makes sense for this episode to be coming out directly after the Mental Health Part 2 episode, because this episode I'm going to be discussing my diagnosis, not just how it relates to me, but in a broad sense to inform you, the viewer, on what major depression is and also what psychosis is. So I'm just going to recap for you all. If you didn't see the Mental Health Part 2 episode, I was recently hospitalized again at Lower Bucks Crisis Center from May 1st till May 9th. I was diagnosed there, unlike the first time when I was hospitalized, I was not diagnosed, but I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and it was triggered by an episode of psychosis. Since being out of the hospital, the week of May 16th to May 23rd, I kind of went through another similar episode where I kind of lost grip with reality, started questioning reality a bit. And I'm going to get into that when I talk about psychosis later on in this episode, but right now I'm going to start with addressing major depressive disorder, because maybe odds are you or someone you know is struggling with that. So to help me with that, I have this pamphlet that I got while I was at Lower Bucks. It's called Mental Illness, What You Need to Know. It's a pamphlet by NAMI, NAMI standing for National Alliance on Mental Illness. So they're a big organization. They have a lot of literature on mental illness. They have a lot of support groups and peer specialists that help people going through this type of stuff. So I'm going to read to you some of this stuff about depression and what that means. Major depression is a mood state that goes well beyond temporarily feeling sad or blue. It is a serious medical illness that affects one's thoughts, feelings, behavior, mood, and physical health for more than 2 weeks. Without treatment, the frequency and severity of these symptoms tend to increase over time. So you see that with a lot of people who struggle with depression. If you don't go get treatment, if you don't see a psychiatrist or see a therapist or start to do that, these symptoms will get worse. One of the symptoms of major depression disorder, not in all people, but again, in my case, was psychosis. Psychosis is not a diagnosis. It is not a mental disorder. It is a symptom. It is a early warning sign of mental disorders. One of them being major depression, another one being bipolar, another one being schizophrenia. So psychosis, having a psychotic episode can be common in a lot of disorders. Major depression, also known as clinical depression, Major depression, also known as clinical depression, involves some combination of the following symptoms: depressed mood or sadness, poor concentration, insomnia, fatigue, appetite disturbances, excessive guilt, or hopelessness and thoughts of suicide. So while I was having an episode and couldn't really question and was continuing to question my reality and really not myself, you do have those thoughts of suicide, because with psychosis, it's lying to your brain. It's tricking your brain into thinking things that are connected that aren't really connected. And it feels like at times the only way to stop that from happening is to completely shut off your brain. Not that I want to kill myself at this time or ever, because I have a lot to live for. I have a great support system, a good job, and I'm working through my problems. When you're going through this, it makes it almost impossible. And for some people, suicide does happen because they're not receiving treatment. They don't know what to do. They don't have the support. And for them, it's just the only way out. It's the easiest way out. But you can fight off psychosis, and I have done it now 3 times. So I'm going to get into psychosis and what that means right now. Early identification and evaluation of the onset of psychosis is an important health concern. Early detection and intervention improve outcomes. Psychosis may be transient, intermittent, short-term, or part of a longer-term psychiatric condition. Psychosis is not a diagnosis, but rather an important symptom to understand. An episode of psychosis is usually a very frightening time for the person who is experiencing it and his or her family. People don't know what to do or where to turn when going through such a trying time. Psychosis is defined as the experience of loss of contact with reality. Psychosis typically involves hallucinations, unusual experiences such as hearing voices, and/or delusions, fixed, unusual beliefs. Psychosis can often be the precursor to a developing mental illness or the onset of one. It is important to understand the range of diagnostic possibilities, both in terms of possible diagnosis associated with psychosis and the prospects for recovery. So for me, something I've noticed, what my triggers being when I go to my treatment, when I go to therapy or I go to my group therapies, I get very heavily invested into learning about these coping skills or these grounding techniques or whatever it may be. And for me, I feel like that's triggering because my last episode started after I was taught about what a negative automatic thought was. And then my brain just had an overload of negative automatic thoughts. I made some connections that weren't true, and my brain started lying to me again. And I was really in a war with my brain this last episode, because when I go through it, I know what's going on and I understand what's going on, but I'm just very paranoid and very afraid, and it's just very, very scary for me. Right now I'm on medications to treat that. I'm on medications to treat depression, and I feel a lot better. It takes time for those medications to kick in and to get in your system, so I feel like my best bet, if this happens again, is just to wait it out, because these episodes usually last me about a week, or like 4 to 5 days of me being really afraid, really, really unclear, before me starting to have the courage and the willpower to fight back. Because not only are you battling psychosis, but you're also battling depression. And at that time, it's making you feel like you can't beat it. You don't want to beat it. Your brain's just tricking you into thinking that. And it's really tough, but I've overcome it. I'm overcoming it, I should say, because you have to be very vigilant, and this is a battle that is going to last a while. You got to just make sure you're not going to fall into the same habits, and when you need help, ask for help, reach out for help. Help is there when you need it. So for me, I go to Pendel Mental Health Center. I've been doing the APH program there, and prior to that, I was doing one-on-one outpatient therapy sessions. If you're in the lower Bucks County area, if you need that help, definitely go over to Pendel Mental Health Center and get the help that you need. I hope that you talk to a psychiatrist or a therapist, whatever you need. But there are services. Your family and friends will be there to support you. All right, so that about covers that. I think it's time for some viewer fan mail. What do you think, Kenny? You have some mail today? Oh, nice. You want to, yeah. Viewer fan mail, the new envelope. It's very nice. And who do we have a letter from today? Oh, wow. We have a letter today from DBW Universe's #1 fan here, my Aunt Elizabeth, who comments on all the Facebook posts and on the YouTube. She's very, very supportive of me. She always has been. She always will be. And I appreciate her so much for that. So, Aunt Elizabeth, thank you. I know you're watching this. I know you think I'm very insightful and the most brilliant, talented person ever. So I want to see what your question is. Your question to me has been, how has APH been going? Well, APH has been going very well. As of this recording today, was one of my last couple days there. I'll be finishing up by the end of this week. Going back down to my one-on-one outpatients weekly and be going to one group a week there. Oddly enough, the one group I'll be going to is run by my one-on-one therapist, so it'll be very easy for me to open up and speak up. But APH has been going very well. I hope in the future to have some of my friends I met through APH on the show to talk about what they're going through and their experience. So hopefully down the line you'll be seeing them on here as well. So thank you for your question, Ann Elizabeth. And if you like this video, please leave a comment below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow DBW Universe on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at DBW Universe, Snapchat at DBW Universe. You can follow me personally on Twitter and Instagram at David Caskey. You can add me on Facebook at David Caskey. You can swipe right to me on Tinder at David Caskey. And you can have a great day. I thank you for watching.